147-pound sub-novice bouts away to a sizzling start in New York as Bob Drost eliminates Paul Levy from Golden Gloves contention. A big crowd is on hand for the News Welfare Association bouts. Gene Hart and Bob Vaughn keep the prelims pricking along, with Vaughn the loser. Few of these ring hopefuls have fought in the big time before. They're young, not too savvy in ring technique, but they're long on gameness and enthusiasm. So something's got to give. And it's Fred Ardolino from a right to the jaw by Tony DiBiase. It's strictly no contest between Fenny Baguette and Steve Belize. Steve is outclassed right from the word go, which is what he'd like to do. But where? Nice try, Steve. Next, Johnny Coronoa and Jerry Swift. Plenty of biff in Johnny and plenty of bounce in Jerry. Free swinging fisticuffs feature this film finale. Yep, it's about curtain time in more ways than one.
You know, you give what you take. You know, you take what you give, and this is it.
Do you think there's something honest about it?
It's got to be honest. It can't be anything else. It's me. It's two individuals trying to render the other one unconscious. Like back to Hemingway again, eh?
Yeah.
You know, somebody's going to die. You know, that's the way it goes. And yet, I go into the ring with you. I'm going in with one intention. One intention is all I got. Two, actually, money. But the first intention is get it over and get the hell out of here. As long as you're swinging, the crowd loves it. When you stop planning and planning and planning and planning, boo, planning, but all the way, bang, you're hitting, bang, 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 you're hitting, you know, bang, you're hitting, you know, and they're going crazy, eh? You love the crowd. You gotta love that crowd, you know, and especially with the biggest disappointment is when you get boos out of them. And in me, I never got boos in my life, but the other guy got boos because I'd say, come on, you know, come on, you know. The guy'd say, frig you, I'm staying clear of you, you know, or something like that, you know. There's my two sisters here, and I am down here, and there's my second oldest brother right here. I'm way down here. I'm the little guy down here. And over here, this was a big house, and my dad used to make his liquor down in here, and it was in the basement. And it was a basement below a basement. You used to dig right down and go in. And he had big 45-gallon wooden puncheons, which he'd make, and then he'd bottle it up, you know. And one day this cop come along, and he says to me, I didn't know he was a cop. He said, I hear your dad make the best booze in the business. I said, well, you better believe it. He said, where's he make it? And I showed them. So they arrested my dad. He called me a stool pigeon. He says, the guy had been a stool pigeon all his life, he says, you know. So, you know, and years later, Christ, 30 years later, I ended up, it's in there where I assaulted a police officer. He was the guy. I got him at a dance one night. I was at a dance years later, and I walked in with a girl, and he was taking tickets or something off duty, and he said something to her. I don't know what it was. And I hauled out and I nailed him one. I was 15 or 16, and I went before the judge, and I remember it was a bunch of us, you know, we were all gang-like. So Dad was there, and the judge says, should I do with them, Pat? He said, I got to put him in reform school, Pat. And Dad said, well, put him in there, might do him some good. He said, well, I'm going to give you a year in reform school, should brighten you up, you know. We were breaking and entering, stealing anything we could put our hands on. Just trying to survive, you know. Reform school was a school in St. John, New Brunswick. That was about 100 miles from Moncton. See, they brought you there on a bus or a train. A detention home, that's what it was, but they called it reform school. You had a maximum of 5 years there. I went there and I did 2 years. I went in there when I was, I think, 14, 15, 16. About 16 I got out. And I didn't get out, I ran away. I took off over the hill one day and kept on going, and I hiked in back into Moncton. But the reform school was, it give you 3 meals a day, you know, and you had a place to stay and sleep and stuff like that. This is what it was. There was maybe about 70, 80 kids there, you know, guys. They weren't kids, they're guys. And there was a guy there, one-arm veteran. He'd lost his arm in the First World War or something. He had one arm, called Mandigo. He was a superintendent or something, you know. And he could hit you with that right hand, and he could lift you right off the feet, you know. And one day he hit me, you know, and Jesus, I went flying ass over kettle right up in the air, and he lifted me with an uppercut, and I swear to this day I can still feel it, you know. And I got up, and I hauled up, and I kicked him, you know. I kicked him right where the sun don't shine, you know. And he went down. And then I skipped across the field, was a field, jumped on a railway train, right into Moncton. I went past Moncton, was going too fast. I ended up in Saginaw, about 30 miles out. But I was, what, 16 then or so, huh? There was no cream or sugar there, you know. It's just, you made your own way. When I got home, I said to Dad, I says, I ain't going back there. He said, well, you don't have to. I'm going to put you to work. This is taking Medicine Square Garden, this one here. This guy here is a movie maker, Daryl Zanuck. This is Frank Sinatra down here, but this is Medicine Square Garden where I fought Pat McCoy. As you see the nose I told you before, and the ears are all busted up there. This is Cuba Gooding Jr. He was down there, he was shooting a picture, and he had me do some work with him, you know. This is mostly family, past and future, you know. This is when we first started the gym up. There's Dave and I and Mark. The kids made it high school for me, see? And this is the, come here. Remember I told you Mills candy? Remember I told you that story? There's a robe. Reader's Digest had put a little article about me years ago. We were a bunch of kids. We were, I think maybe 9, 10 years old. We were big time operators, you know. We broke into a big candy store. And we, oh God, we got involved in candies, you know. We started eating, and we were still there when the owner came in. We were eating candies. They weren't interested in money. It was candies, man. We were really, and he came in and he was mad. Mr. Mills was his name. And he kicked us all out, you know, and then he called our dad up. Now, 13 years later, he calls me in the store. He said, hi, Normie, how are you? And we all were friends, you know. He says, you know, it's payback time. I said, what do you mean payback time? He said, well, I hear you're fighting in Medicine Square Garden. I said, yeah. Now, he had a robe with Mills candy in the back. He said, you wear this. Payback time. There's Medicine Square Garden at the time when I was foxing there. These was the old FBI State Athletic Commission, New York. See, that's. Despite an early 6 round, Norman and his trainer began to work in his weakness, his left hand and his defense. See, this is stories about what they took out of it. The kids took the scrapbook and they made this out of it, you know. Yeah, and yep. The 7 brothers, I was the smallest. And it was always, I kicked the hell out of you, wouldn't we, Norman? So I was all the smallest, and they considered me pretty tough guy coming around, Not rushing things ahead, but that's the way I got in the box. And when I went before the judge that time, he looked at me and he says to me, "You come before me one more time, you're going up the hill." That's the pen, Now get out of my court and don't come back before me. He was a good judge. So I went home, and a couple of days later, I'm in a restaurant with this girl, and a big fight started. And and I said, let's get out of here. So I want to get out the back door. But this big guy, black guy, I don't know where he come from, and nowhere, he took a swing at me, and I ducked. I went down one knee, and I came up, and I nailed him like John Wayne, but he flew over the counter, and I felt something crack in the hand, but I said, let's get out of here. So we got out of there, and I brought her home. Then I went home, and I had a little apartment. You pulled a bed out, I think $30 a month. I was trying to straighten myself out, and the next day, there's headlines in the paper where heavyweight champion gets broken jaw by unknown in restaurant. So they come knocking on my door. I thought it was the cops. I didn't want to open the door. I said, the hell, I'm going out the window. And they says, "Normie, it's Chris here." And I says, Chris who? Chris Shebang. Oh, he owned a store on the Bowery where I come from, And he says, "Open up, I want to talk to you." I said, "Who's with you?" He said, "Never mind, open up." So I opened up, and there was this guy. He said, "You hit my fighter the other night." He said, "What do you have in your hand?" His jaw's broken. The guy's never been off his feet. And Darrell, he's forced to fight Darrell, and they had to cancel the fight. 4,000 or 5,000 people had to cancel out, so, So he said, I had something in my hand. I said, "I had nothing in my hand. My hand was all busted up." And that's where it started. They brought me to the gym a few days later, and Darrell's mad as hell at me. I don't know who he is. And he's mad as hell at me, and he's cursing and calling me down and everything. And he said, "You no good, you." He said, you ruined my fight. I lose lots of money." And I said to him, "Oh, so what? So what the hell? I just protected myself." He said, "What'd you hit him with, a baseball bat or something?" I said, No. Chris said, "Well, Norm, have you ever considered start boxing?" Now, I'm 20 years old, eh? Usually you got an amateur career in front of you, but I'm too old for an amateur career. Chris said, "Well, why don't you come down tomorrow?" And he says, "We'll get you some trunks and stuff and put the gloves on and see what you can do, what you got." I said, "I'm not interested in that." But he said, "Normie, you could make a buck." The minute he said a buck, like bull horns went up, Buck, money, I didn't know what boxing was about or anything like that. So I came in the next day, and they give me some trunks, and I went in with Darrell. Now, Darrell was light heavyweight, eh? So I went in with him, and geez, bang, I go down on my bang, I'm going down, and when he's hitting me, he's swearing in French, "Cadiz, bang, Cadiz, bang," And I went down 3 or 4 times, finally said, "Oh, hell with it," And he's laughing, so I turned around, I kicked him. And I kicked him in the rear end. And he comes after me, and I go out the rope, It's a comedy, really, and, and then Chris got between us and everything, and I said, "Look," I says, "a big gorilla." So I went home, and I went back to that restaurant, and he was sitting in there. See, it was Rishore's restaurant, the Lucky Strike restaurant. Mr. Rishore was, if there's a place in heaven, he's there, because he was such a good man. If you were hungry, he'd give you something to eat. He was good, so he was good. So I ran into Yvonne, and Yvonne started, razzing me around. So I got up and I walked out. And he said, "If you got any guts, you come to the gym tonight." So, geez, that night I went to the gym. And then I got into the ring, and I said, "Now, look," I says, "what you did to me the other day," I says, "don't stick your chest out." I says, I inquired about you, you're a professional. I said, "I'm not, I don't know how to fight." I said, "I'd take you in the street and I'll beat you." I says, "Here, I can't." I says, "But I said, you show me how you hit me, how you did that." He followed me 3 or 4 times. And he looked at me and he looked at Chris and said, "This fella, are you crazy?" There at that minute started a 50-year, 60-year friendship that lasted right through it. Because then he started, showing me how to left hook, right cross. And Darrell was the guy that showed me and started me off, And, yep. I wonder. Whoop, whoop.
Let's get in the ring.
Yeah. In my days, there was only 3 ropes, eh? And so many guys were getting hit and going outside the ring. Now they've got 4 ropes. And the whole ring, the idea is you never come off the rope straight. This footwork is very important. You're going in there, see, foot's going that way. When the guy's fighting, you're watching his feet. You see his feet, bang! Bang, you hit him, they're coming off, see? You know? Or you can get in the corner. This used to be my favorite. Sit in the corner. You know, just go back, you know. Whang! First fight I had, actually, I had in Chatham, New Brunswick. That's where Darrell's from. I fought a guy there by the name of K. O'Malley, like Knockout Malley. And later on, I found out that his dad used to hook these guys up to the logs. That's the type of guy he was, you know. He just liked, this guy was, and this guy, just like that. He just put his hand, no defense, no nothing, but boy, he could hit. And that was my first fight. And I said to Chris, and I was just shaking like heck, you know. And I said, Yvonne scared the hell out of me. He said, oh, that feller, Norman. He said, he tough. Oh, Jesus, he tough. I said, thanks a lot, you know. But I went in, and he floored me the first time, floored me the second time, and I got up in the first round. In the second round, Jesus, I started getting away from him. The third round, bang, I went down again. Fourth round coming, I said, is there any more rounds? They said, yeah, one more. And I said, shit. So I went up, and I seen an opening there, and I said, Jesus, because, you know, he was showing off sort of opening. And geez, I let a right hand go and bang, he went down, the cloud of dust, you know, and he never moved. That was the end of it. So I knocked him out in the final round, my first fight, eh? But he won every round, you know. He had me down 3 or 4 times. Now, Chris said, oh, that's going to make a lovely return for Moncton. This was in Chatham. Darrell was going to fight the fall in Moncton. So they moved it right up to semifinal. I only fought 1 4-rounder in my life, and then bingo, all at once, 6-rounder. I trained for this fight with, remember I trained with Darrell, I was training with him, and Darrell now is getting serious, you know, and he's hitting me some pretty good shots and showing me this and that. And so anyway, the fight comes off, K. O'Malley. This time, he's not flooring me. I'm getting the hell out of the way, and I'm fighting a pretty good fight, you know. So I took the decision, that was it. So I beat him twice, K. O'Malley. That was my first 2 fights, you know.
Do you remember how much you got paid for those first?
I got $50 for the first one, and I think I got $75 for the 6-rounder. The home where wars are made and won. I survived this, I'm finished, that's it, I'm finished. I said, a bunch of nuts try to kill each other for $50. So I said, I'm getting out of it. But then I won in that kind of, and then the second fight I won in that kind of, you know, and then lost a couple in Nova Scotia. Then I went to Quebec, then I won one in Quebec. See, I'm traveling a little bit, you know. I was out of Moncton, other than Reform School in St. John. I never was out of Moncton. So I'm traveling a little bit there, and that's getting interesting, and I'm getting paid. But, you know, I got to get a job. I can't live on that, you know, because we've got a big family, eh? I said to Chris, I says, I got to get a job or somewheres. And Yvonne said, well, come to Bay St. Anne with me and live with me. He said, you can go fish with me there. We fish down there, you know. I put up with that for about a month, and that was the end of that. A bunch of nuts down there, you know.
What was more difficult, boxing or fishing?
Oh, the fishing. Oh, they go out in storms and everything. I'm not that good a swimmer, you know, and they'd tie me downstairs and lock me in there, and I'd say, get me the hell out of here, you know. But after a while, I got so, you know, I accepted the boxing as a way of life. That's what you had to accept, you know. I had a brother that ended up doing life almost in prison over like the installment plan. He'd break and enter and get 2 years and 2 years and 2 years, you know, and they call that. And then I had another brother who had a choice, either go to war or go to jail. And he decided to go to war, join the army. He never come back, you know. He's been better off went to jail, you know. I was about the only guy that really spread the wings out and went. You know, they all stuck around and they worked and they pensionized and everything. But I took up boxing because it was nothing, there's nothing else to do there at the time, you know. It was either box or get into trouble. The only thing with boxing, with me, after a while, it got when, where, and how much. I'm fighting on through New England, you know, for $50, $75, $60, like that. Now, people say, well, how come such little money? I said, well, listen, you bought a house for $10,000. So if you got a couple grand, it was big money, you know, like that convertible there you see, that was brand new Impella convertible, you know. I paid, I think, $2,000 cash for it. So it was big money. You pick up the buck here and the buck there. But this guy, Patty, he's seen me fight in Halifax. Normie says, you've got two things and you're lacking the third. He says, one, you're tough. He says, no denying that. You can punch. He said, you got to punch. He says, I'll tell you. He said, every guy you fight, you seem to knock down. But third, the final thing, he says, you're got poor defense. He says, you should get out of boxing and go into baseball. He said, because you're the greatest catcher in the business. He said, man, the way you catch him, he said, I'm telling you, he says, you're not going to last. He said, if you come to New York for a year or so, he says, we'll get you a job there in the Bronx and we'll train you. And his idea of defense, he had 3 world champions, this guy. And he said, look at them, Normie. He said, they're not rich, but they're comfortable. He said, well, most important, they got their heads. They can think. He says, this is great. Defense is great. He said, but when you're defending, you're not throwing punches. Make the guy miss. Bang, you can close your eyes, you know. He said, just make the guy miss. He said, when the guy misses, he's wide open. I had a guy like that one time, and they were going to stop it. And he says, give me a round. He took 2 quarters and split it, let the blood out, eh? Then my eye opened. See, and I survived the fight. 2 quarters, just pinched it. And I went out, and went out, and pull him. And I opened my eye, and I could see, and I went out. But to start with, you know, it was rough. Like that New York, I spent 2 years there, and that was tough, that there, you know. I was fighting all over the place. The Bronx, I was fighting in Brooklyn, I was fighting in Jersey, I was going, and then towards the end, we're going to Miami, we're going to Tampa, Florida, we're going, you know, and traveling a lot. And I picked up, it says there, Gautreau returns after 17 wins in U.S., successful wins. I had 17 fights, you know. Well, I had 21 and I won 17. So that spoke for itself, you know. When I come back from the States, then I really settled down with Darrell because Yvonne needed somebody to work out with him and everything. And I practically moved to Bay St. Anne with him, you know, and stayed there with him all through, right up till the time he fought Archie Moore in 1959.
Tonight's bout. Here in Montreal, the 5-point must system will be used in this fight. 5 points to the winner of a round, a less number to the loser, an even round giving each fighter 5 points. Round number 1. The referee does not involve himself in the scoring of the fight. The 3 judges do all the scoring. The referee does not have a vote in the fight, except, of course, that he can stop the fight, and also that he can penalize a fighter for a foul. Both fighters wearing dark trunks. Archie Moore's have the gold stripe, whereas Yvonne Darrell is wearing the white stripe. for guesswork on this fight, pretty much came to a unanimous conclusion that Gautreau would have to come storming in at Archie Moore early in the fight if he were to get him, and he just did with a right hand to the jaw. 5, 6, 7, 8, up at 9, but staggering. Dazed and staggering, Yvonne Durrell swarming over him. Is this the night Father Time swings the sign? Archie Moore pounding from rope to rope and on his feet, rubber-legged. Durrell nailing him with everything he has. The gallant old champion staggering about the ring. Up at the count of 2, there is no mandatory 8 count. There is no automatic 3 knockdown. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He's up at the count of 9. 1 minute left in the round. 1 minute. Down 3 times. Durrell trying to measure him. Can't seem to quite get to him as Moore now tries to move in and go into that shell-like defense. If Archie Moore lasts this round, it will be boxing's modern miracle. 30 seconds to go. Moore seems to be fighting his way out of it. Archie Moore is going to make it. There's the bell. Archie Moore has made it. His handlers flew across the ring to get him back to that corner, and this is a big minute in Archie Moore's life. Count of 9. Blood streaming from his nose. A cut over his right eye. Moore back after him once again. And down he goes again with a clubbing right hand. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Struggling at 9, 10. He is out. Man, oh man, what a dramatic turn in this fight. Archie Moore near annihilation in the first round. And then on the canvas again in the 5th round as he was cracked to the floor with a count of 6. Struggled to his feet.
The night I won the title, I was in Moncton, and it was supposed to be for the maritime title, you know, maritime Eastern Canadian title. We had both put a challenge in, Miss Paris and I, for it. So we fought 12 rounds instead of 10. And I knocked him down 3 times. But he fought me a good fight, right to true 12-round decision, you know. But I knocked him down the 1st, the 6th, and then the 8th.
Do you remember where it happened in the ring?
Yeah, first time, to this day I remember, first time I got him in the corner, right starting the fight, bang, 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 right in the corner. I met him in the corner, getting up. He never got off his seat hardly. Bound, he went down, but he got up again. Then he went on the defense, you know. He ran like a squirrel, bang, bang, all over, couldn't catch him. Then I got him again in the 5th, and I dropped him middle of the ring. He one knee, and he took an 8 count, got up. And then I dropped him again in the final round. So there was no question on the decision. It was unanimous, you know. The Canadian title at that time was, here in Canada, was pretty big, you know. And next day I walked down Main Street and I was Canadian champion. And everybody was shaking my hand. Everybody said, hey, I seen that fight, Norm, it was a nice fight and everything. was a 6th round, and there's Dickie DeVeronica, is 18 years old, and I'm 31 years old. I've been around 10 years, he's been around a year. And I come out, and I fire right, I go left, before it was walk away. Now it's before I even get it out there. And I fire right hand and bang, before it even lands. That's counterpunching, see? And you get, you get caught, and you get, how to shake that off, and you can't. Then you come back to the corner the first round and say, oh, I'll be okay this round. Then you get up and all at once your legs are starting. And then you go to the second round and boom, 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 boom. Shit. Come back to third round. Bang! He goes down. You got him right hand. He gets up, he's mad. Bang, 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 bang. Boy, in the 4th round, bang, 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 bang. 5th round, bang, bang. The 6th round, I could hardly get up. I got up like that and fell back down. When the guy came over, I said, yeah, I said, stop it. So stop it. Now what happened here, that last payday for me was $4,000. But Norm Rothschild told me, the promoter, he says to me, he says, Normie, he says, I'll give you a choice of $4,000 or 20% of the gross gate, not net, gross gate. And I said, Jesus, I remember the doctor, I'm telling you, I'm getting my face fixed. I said, that $4,000, I said, I can use, I've got a guarantee. So I took it. And then I started crying when I got there. They were hanging from the rafters. It was loaded full. And my payday on percentage would have been, I think, $7,500 if I had taken the percentage. But Rothschild was one of the greatest Jewish guy in the business. He says to me, he said, Normie, are you really getting out? He said, I got to get the nose fixed. And I said, it's going to cost me all this $4,000. So he gave me an extra $1,000 in the envelope, Not too many guys. Nobody ever did that for me. When I got out of boxing in 1960, I got out of it 61. I never went near it again for 30 years. Because, man, when you're in there, you're getting hit. And you're getting, no matter how good you are, you're going to get hit. And you're going to get hurt. And that hurt's going to stay with you. Look at that picture of mine. My nose was way over here. My ear was cauliflower. I had, I think, somewhere around 60, 70 stitches in the eyes. That's all been plastic surgery, all fixed up. It took my last purse of Dickie DeVeronica to fix this up, I was never bothered with it if the tumor hadn't come. So they had to cut the nose out and fix it, and this is all plastic, So when you get through all that after 10 years of going through that, 10 years of getting beat, that's what it is. Because you're getting beat in the ring, whether it's in the gym or where it is, you're getting hit. You're not falling in love with that, You really get to the point of where you say, well, I don't want any more to do with it. I'm out of it, and I'm going to stay out of it, and that's the end of it, This here is pretty well the museum in itself.
Can you tell us about this one?
That's Yvonne and I was down there, remember during that shooting? That was that time then. He was lost all his hair there, and he had a wig on. And I trying to take the wig off of him, And that's when he signed up, and they took our picture. This is my son here. He's a professional wrestler. That's his life. He likes that. He didn't like boxing. He tried it, and he said, no, Dad, I don't like that. And this here is pretty well the grandchildren and children, great-grandchildren, and so on. This grandchildren are God's gift for growing old. I'd like to say that again. And this is a Moncton Wall of Fame. They got me in there in a Wall of Fame in Moncton. And this is a letter they sent me. I am pleased to announce on behalf of the Wall of Fame, so on, etc. They put me in there. That was 1989.
That's you bartending?
Yeah, that's me bartending at the Waldorf. Yeah, I was there for 17 years. It's a long while. I said before, I had more fights there than I had in the ring. The only thing in the ring I lost some, I never lost any in there.
You and Darrell, you guys look like you're more brothers than
Yeah,
training
well,
partners.
while we're kidding around there, you know, that's his museum there. He has a museum in his own home, eh? And, you know, when I came up there, they planned all that. You seen the video, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they made me walk up to the door and knock on the door, and Teresa came to the door, and I says, hello, how you do, madame? I said, you could not spare me a bite to eat. I'm hungry and everything, you know, and they all planned this on camera. And she says, Yvonne, do. His name's Do, like sweet, you know. Do. And he came up. He said, yeah, what do you want? And I says, well, I'm hungry. I have something to eat. And he looked at me and he said, yeah, come on in. I said, no, it's okay. Something to eat, quoi manger, là, French. Yeah. And then he kept looking at me. We've been 30 years, see me. And I says, you slip on your lace, didn't you? And he started thinking, see, years ago, he knocked me down. Whang! Oh! I went right to my knees, you know. And I got up and he says, you okay? I says, yeah, I slipped and my shoelace untied. He said, you slipped in that shoelace? He got me right up. That's the shoelace you slip on, he say. That's a shoelace you slip on. And he caught on, and that's when he jumped out and he started crying and everything, hugging me and everything. And then we took a walk along without the cameras, along the water. When he fought Archie Moore, he carried me in his shoulder and ran in water to get in shape. And his tears come down his eyes. He starts saying, you know, he says, I can't remember nothing no more, Norman. He said, I don't remember. He said, I forget. I said, well, why? Everybody's like that. But he was getting to the Alzheimer, you know, dementia. See, he got beaten pretty bad there that last few fights, you know. They really hung on to him, you know. But his funeral come along, and I was going to go down, and I took sick. Ended up, you know, pretty sick, and I couldn't make it. But they wanted me as a nun or pallbearer, you know, but I couldn't make it. I gotta come all the way from Vancouver to fight you again. What the hell's going on? Shit. It's been a long while. Been a long while. I couldn't make you cry when I was fighting with you. Now you'd start bawling on me. You never beat me in your life. You couldn't even hit, for Jesus' sake. Because you couldn't knock me down just once. I slipped in my shoes. I couldn't get you. No, I slipped my shoe that time. My shoelace, remember? Remember that, eh? It was good days, eh? We had some damn good days. This is a good area. You're right across from the hospital. So you just limp over. I said to daughter, anything happens to me, I said, just drag me over. So we're close, you know. We've been here about 12 years now. And I sort of change lights and keep an eye on things, you know. So the rent's the same thing as it was 8 years ago, 10 years ago. So. When I had that last fight I told you about, I'd got my nose fixed and everything, and I didn't know what I was going to do, so this guy phoned me to go to Los Angeles for Universal Studios. The stuntmen there could do everything, jump out of building, or cars and everything, but they couldn't throw punches, and the actors were getting broken noses, and like, for instance, Tony Gerger's had broken nose, cut eye, and everything. So they wanted to bring fighters to teach the stuntmen how to fire punches. So a guy named Gaspar Ortega was there, and he phoned me, and I went up. And I couldn't teach them not to fire how to fire the punch, because, you know, they're still hitting the guys. So I started teaching the actors how to make a miss, you know, and it worked. And I was there for about 1.5 years. Geez, I really enjoyed it. And then one day they told me, they says that I'd have to come back because of the immigration, eh? But they said, don't worry about it, Mr. Gautreau, you're well liked here. So we came to Vancouver here to get some papers, and we took one look at the mountains. That was it. We've been here ever since. Never moved out of Vancouver. And that's when I walked away from the boxing. That was 1962-63. Never had a thing to do with boxing again until the 80s. When the induction came, they didn't even know where I was, you know. Dear sir, after a long and hard look at your distinguished record as an achiever in the sports of champion, it gives me supreme pleasure and the utmost pride to inform you at this time that you have been selected by your peers, our National Selection Committee, to enter into our Hall of Fame as a bona fide member. Your name, as off the letterhead, dated above, will appear in the Canadian Archives, the Sports Hall of Fame, the great books of the Hall of Fame, and in the United States and Canada, and on microdot at the Carnegie Institute in Washington, D.C., and will remain there so honored unto infinity. We have found that your contribution to boxing has far surpassed anything that was ever expected of you. You have shown yourself to be a great citizen and a supreme sportsman, and we are pleased and proud to associate ourselves with you. I am as always yours sincerely in the sports of Canada. Tony Unitas, President, Director.
Growing up in New Brunswick, did you ever think that letter would come?
No. That's what I was saying about Dave. He makes them work. Makes them work. First time they put one of these up, I went bang! Like when the guy missed, I said, the doctor gave me orders to lose the babies. You know, I was fat and out of shape, so I went down there.
I got into boxing too, actually.
Yeah, I asked the guy there to give me a little speed bag and a heavy bag and a skipping rope, and remember that little corner he put us in, and I'm skipping and you know, working out, doing a sauna and swimming and everything, and pretty soon I've got people coming in, you know, how you skip, how do you do this, how do you do that, and so the next thing I know, boom, 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 and him and his partner walked in one day.
I see this guy skipping, and he's doing pretty good. And I remember going and talking to him, and he would start telling me stories. But I thought he was just full of crap. But then I heard him tell the story again to another person, and it was the same story. So it didn't waver at all. It didn't change like all the old stories you usually hear. And I'm like, whoa, this guy might be for real.
And then one day he says, Jesus, I'd like to open a gym and get
that's
going.
Where your famous words came.
Yeah, I'd like to
Son,
open
if you open a gym, I'll come with you. Thinking to himself, I was never going to open the gym.
The proudest thing we got here is that we are now, or we have been, the biggest boxing club in Canada. We started with 35, 40 people. There's a lot of clubs bigger, but they've got martial arts and everything like that. But this place is strictly boxing. But to get back to it, I look back and I can say, you know, we did pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go for another year anyway.
I thought you just said 8.
Yeah, but a year in here will do me. I fought a semifinal against a guy by the name of Pat McCoy, little Irishman. This guy had had over 200 professional fights, imagine. I had no ring in the business in the ring with him, but they needed a guy, so they called me. They need somebody tough. And that's exactly what I was, because he hit me with everything but the bucket. I was like a catcher in baseball. I caught it all again. My dad was sitting at ringside, and they gave us airfare for 3. And Chris couldn't make it, so Dad came instead. Dad, he got at ringside hollering, kill him, goddamn Irishman, kill him. He was hollering. I come in the ring, that's my boy up there, that's my boy, that's my boy there. You know, sticking his head out, you know. And the reporters interviewed them, and he started talking about showing his knuckles. I fought bare knuckles and all that, you know. And I was saying to him, you know, is that your dad? I said, I don't know. After all these professional fights in 10 years, walk away with, I think, with something up here, you know. Most guys can't even remember their birthdays, see? Jake LaMotta, now, you know, he's gone. Willie Pep, he was in a home, an old age home, he couldn't, you know, he's gone. Sugar Ray Robinson, one of the greatest boxers in the world, 65, his head's gone. So, you know, it goes, you know.
So with all the brutality and all the things that come along with boxing,
Still worth it, yeah.
I tripped around my old town last night. Boy, there were memories to be chewed on. I walked down streets we used to walk beautiful girls home on. Oh, Moncton, it's been too long. I made my way to Madison Square. How many people could say they've been there? And I didn't have to pay a dime to go and see. When I was there, the crowd, oh, they was looking at me. But you ain't got nothing if you ain't got nothing to come home to. I've learned that. For you may find fame and fortune, but it's a long road back. I tripped round my old town last night, past the courtyard steps I used to play on. I walked by Judge Lane, it was nice to see him again. Oh, what's a street fight man to do? So I found myself in Hollywood during the 60s. Now that was quite some time. Taught the fight game to a bunch of make-believers whose features were prettier than mine. But you ain't got nothing if you ain't got nothing to come home to. I've learned that. For you may find fame and fortune, but it's a long road back. I tripped round a new town last night. Mama, I think that I might stay on. Was just passing through, but I feel like I belong. Oh, Van City, I'm home. Oh, Van City, I'm home.
Yeah, this, all good memories. All good memories. With the old saying, when they inducted me, they said, if you got anything to say, you know, the reporter from Toronto inducted me. I said, yeah, I says, that Undertaker gonna have a hell of a time getting that smile off my face.